Hello, guys, and welcome to the Rebound Talks podcast. I'm your host, Antonio Colmenares, and I'm going to help you find the best tools, tips, and techniques needed to overcome any adversity. Today, we're going to be speaking to the internationally recognized narcissistic abuse recovery expert, Melanie Tonia Evans. She is the founder of the Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Program, which has now touched the lives of almost 10 million people from over 100 countries worldwide. She's the author of You Can Thrive After Narcissistic Abuse, which became an Amazon bestseller in days. Her sole mission is to educate and show people that there's a way to heal from abuse and thrive no matter how old you are, what you've lost, how broken you might feel, and even if abuse is all you've ever known. Today, we're going to be talking about how Melanie almost lost her life to her narcissistic husband, how to identify a narcissist in or before a relationship, and how to achieve inner healing. Stay tuned. Hello, Melanie. I really appreciate you coming on.
Hi, Antonio. I'm thrilled to be on. Thank you for having me.
I want to start with, how did you get to your life's work? How did you get to the fields of narcissistic abuse and helping people survive and thrive after going through something so horrible?
Well, Antonio, I had no idea I was going to grow up and be a narcissistic abuse recovery expert. But what happened is that I married a narcissist who I was with for 5 years, and I went through an extreme life and death experience with him, and ended up having a breakdown where I was told I would never be able to recover from. And wow. I was fortunate enough to have an incredible, near-death experience, an epiphany where I understood that I actually had a choice and that I would be able to heal outside of contemporary measures. And I went down that path, which was really quite uncharted at the time, and was able to create a recovery beyond my wildest dreams. And I just started sharing it, Antonio. I shared it. I shared my experiences, and I was really shocked how online people were coming forward and saying, that's exactly my story. I had no idea that narcissistic abuse was such an epidemic. And it's a bit like Louise Hay once upon a time. She just said, I just opened the mail. I just was helping people with HIV. I just opened the mail. And all I really did was giving out information, and then I was sharing my healing experience, which ended up being other people's healing experience. And before I knew it, this was a mission that became a global business.
How common is this narcissistic personality disorder?
Do you know, Antonio, there are all sorts of statistics. You know, they say it can be 1% of the community, but the problem with that is no narcissist is really going to put up their hand to go and get diagnosed. And usually with therapists, narcissists are very, very good at manipulating and shifting blame and being very pathological. So it's very hard to pin them down. And if that starts to happen, they will usually leave therapy. My personal belief is that it's rampant. There's a lot of beautiful, amazing people in the world, and you know, there's a lot of damaged people in the world. We've all had trauma from our childhood, our experiences, the human collective. But the difference between people who are evolving and are taking responsibility and do have compassion is I take responsibility for my own experience. Narcissists don't. And sadly, there is enough of it around that it is very destructive for people and collectively. Absolutely.
And when did you realize that this ex-husband of yours was actually a narcissist?
That's such a good question, Antonio. Not many people actually ask me that in interviews. For a long time, I had no idea. I just really thought that a narcissist was an overinflated ego. and an arrogant person. I had no idea. And quite literally, one time I was driving from the property to an escape place that I had, and literally a voice in my head said, look up narcissism. So
wow.
I got to this place. Absolutely. I looked. I had so many of those experiences to help me. I looked at the computer and I Googled. There wasn't a lot around then. There was only about 2 or 3 people talking about it. And I literally ticked the boxes and nearly fell off my chair.
And what are these boxes? How can you know if your partner is a narcissist?
Oh, gosh. Antonio, there's a big list of things. But what I really want to do is just talk about the easier to identify things. First of all, this person in a love relationship, they're not going to start off like this. They're going to start off charming and love bombing and being everything you want them to be. Then when the cracks appear, so it's not like a narcissist walks into your life and says, hello, here I am, because you would never connect. Okay, so what you will start noticing is that they can get triggered very easily on a hairline. So things that don't bug normal people, they have reactions to. Absolutely. And when you get into debates or trying to get them to be accountable or see sense or play fair, these circular arguments will start that make you feel like your head is spinning. So they will twist facts. They will bring in topics that are unrelated. They will bring up allies like this person says this about you. I'm not the only person who thinks this. So many other people have told me. So that's gaslighting as well. An apology is not forthcoming at all. It will only be if you've had enough and you're going, but it might be after a week or 2 of fighting, and then you've had enough and you're about to walk out the door, and then you'll get the apology. But then what happens is a day or 2 later or sooner, something will come up about what happened, and they will completely flip the story. They were never wrong. They were never sorry. And you think, what just happened? For a week I fought for this, and now it's completely out the window. You will notice in yourself, if you are with somebody with NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, you'll start getting anxious. You will start being very triggered. You may question yourself and think, am I the crazy one? I'm angry, I'm triggered, I'm becoming somebody I don't like. And then it can be very easily twisted back on you, and you start to question yourself whether or not I'm the problem.
And why do you think people become so dependent to narcissists?
Oh, gosh. Antonio, you were asking some really great questions. Okay. Well, there are deeper reasons. And sadly, a lot of what is out there is let's just focus on the narcissist. But there's no power in that ever, and there's no recovery in that ever, because what has happened with ourselves is unconsciously there are parts of ourselves that have never healed and developed up from our childhoods, which has left us very, very susceptible to these people. So what will happen, narcissists are very honed in, very tuned in at identifying people's gaps, vulnerabilities and susceptibilities, such as, let's say, for example, you grew up in a family where you never felt that you were seen or heard. You were invisible. So a narcissist can work that out and come into your life and absolutely see you, hear you, hold you, and you feel like a person in a desert finding an oasis. So the bonding is so intense, you feel like you've come home. And the narcissist will hook you in with that bond very, very quickly. And Antonio, if we're hungry or thirsty, what happens is we lap it up and we will accept the deal that comes with it. So the narcissist will say, okay, let's bond. okay, I'll move in. All right, I'll get involved in your business. So they enmesh very quickly. So what happens, rather than us understanding boundaries and having our values and our rights and taking relationships slowly, such as, yeah, this is cool, I like you, but I'm going to hang back and ascertain your character and your values. The problem has been, until we develop and heal up to be our own source of love, approval, survival, and security, we can unknowingly be an inner unhealed child in an adult's body, unconsciously seeking a parent to make us feel whole and safe and loved. And narcissists are very good at appearing to be that person. But then what will happen is when you get with them, then they will attack the very thing that they were supposed to be nurturing and supporting. So if you haven't felt seen, they come in and they see you and you bond and you're like a child clinging to that parent without realizing it. Then they'll flip it and start attacking you and deserting you and not hearing you and not seeing you, but you go back in harder as a trauma bond, trying to get back that person who was saving you from yourself.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm believing is that people who are susceptible to narcissists have like deeper problems that they haven't dealt with before. And the narcissist is feeding into those problems, like making them better. And then they just stake away. Absolutely.
And there is 100%. And there is such an obsessive trauma bond. There is such an addiction to a narcissist, which is your unhealed parts screaming for the self-medication of this person fixing them because it seemed that this person was fixing them. So and I've been through the addiction. It's horrific. People get so hooked on narcissists. I've had heroin addicts tell me getting off heroin was 10 times easier.
Wow.
It's that extreme.
And why do you think it goes so far?
It goes so far because the emotional relief of feeling safe and loved is such a powerful hit that that person becomes your God. They really do. And then when they withdraw support and start attacking you, it's like being a helpless child trying to get an archetypal figure to stop hurting you and love you again. It's huge.
So this brings me to this study that I've heard that when rats are in a cage by themselves and they're given cocaine, they just take cocaine until they die. But when they're in a huge cage and they're with a bunch of friends and they could play around, like 1 or 2 of them might die of the cocaine, but the rest actually avoid it and drink the normal water.
Yes.
So
it's huge.
So you recommend that we heal ourselves inside first?
And that is, in the 12 years that I've been doing this mission and helping now millions of people from over 120 different countries. That's how big our reach is. Yeah, it really is. And Tony, I've ever only seen one way to recover, and that is to go within and recover ourselves. And to let go of that false source who is not the savior of our wounds, who's actually the destroyer and the miner and the stripper of our life force. It's like cigarettes. We think it's our best friend, but it's killing us. A narcissist is the same. We have to let go, and then the addiction and the aftershock hits like a freight train. But then if you have the right tools and processes and support, which is exactly what my work is about, then you can go within, reclaim, heal those parts up, where not only do you get free of the addiction and being abused by that person and take your power back, you end up more up-leveled and freer and more whole and expanded and thriving than you've ever been in your entire life. Because in our wounds is where we mine our gold. And that person in our life was such a catalyst to bring us to our knees, to force us to do that.
Yeah, it's definitely post-traumatic growth. And I wanted to...
Yes, totally. which is the most incredible growth and reclaiming and freedom that you could ever access. It's hard. It's not easy. It's really, it's shocking, but it works.
So talk to me about this quanta freedom healing that you have in your programs.
Quanta freedom healing, Antonio, is the key because, and what I discovered, it saved my life. It healed post-traumatic stress disorder, agoraphobia, adrenal malfunction. It actually healed my brain from a brain injury that I was never meant to recover from. So what it does is it targets the trauma in your visceral, emotional, subconscious being, which is your whole cellular network. It's able to draw it out cellularly, release it, free you from it, and then open you up to true source, which is your superconscious, is a higher power. You can call it creation, life force, God, deity, whatever you want to call it. It's non-denominational. You actually bring in, and it's the light. It's the higher consciousness. You bring that in cellularly where that trauma once was, and you get literal shifts out of who you were being, which is not your true self, into who you are, which is your true self. So it's a power that heals what we logically can't. It's very, very much along the lines of the work of Bruce Lipton and the late Candace Pert and Joe Dispenza. So it's neuroquantum scientists who understand that the brain follows the body. So if we have existing trauma cellularly wedged in our visceral, what happens is our brain neuro network follows the level of trauma. So if we're trying to think ourselves out of trauma, we only have here in the logical brain 40 bits per second of power through our system, whereas if we contact our visceral and work there, we have 40 billion bits per second. So
by the visceral,
we're literally.
Do you mean the subconscious?
Sorry?
By the visceral side,
yes.
You mean the subconscious?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely, because you think of the subconscious, it is like it's working with processes and trillions of cellular processes it controls. It also controls how we show up, who and what we connect with, and what we're going to play out within life. So our subconscious programs are actually unfolding our life to the letter on autopilot by the time we're 35 years of age. 95% of our life is happening beyond conscious recognition. So what happens, the 5% after 35 years of age, which is conscious recognition, if we're trying to change the 95% with the 5% power, what happens, Antonio, in extreme trauma is we literally nearly become bipolar because we're trying to force ourselves to leave this person, get over it, get on with our life. Our unconscious programs, which are now deeply enmeshed in the beliefs and the traumas of, you know, love destroys me, the people I love want to annihilate me, you know, I've been thrown under a bus, etc. All of that is playing out on autopilot to the letter. We're trying to stop it with our brain, and the subconscious program will hit back even harder. So you think you're getting better, and then you will plummet into an even deeper dive into the trauma, usually rehooking to the person that's hurting you. Then you blame yourself. Why can't I recover? Why am I hopeless? Why am I helpless? Why am I pathetic? Why can't I get over this? I'm an intelligent, and most people who are abused by narcissists are beautiful, good, intelligent people who belt themselves up so much because they cannot understand why they can't get out of it. That's why. So quantum freedom healing bypasses the brain. It's a process that you just have to follow, and it bypasses the brain, gets into your visceral, and does the work where it's needed to be done.
And
that's why it's so effective.
I want to spend a little bit in this process. I read that it includes journaling, meditation of some sort, that light that you're talking about, the higher power being right on top of your head, and then using that to release the inner trauma. So if somebody wanted to practice that at home, what steps can they follow?
In my book, we have a journaling process, which is not quantum freedom healing.
Okay.
It's an introduction to it, and it is effective. Quantum freedom healing in itself, I'm an energy healer. I was granted, it might sound quite, woohoo or new agey, but for people out there who are spiritual, who've worked with EMDR or with Reiki, or it's not those, or theta healing, which is closer. Kinesiology is a little closer again. You kind of have to be. We say to people all the time, quantum freedom healing, I have a free webinar, come in and just experience it, because it's hard to explain and it has to be an experience thing for you to understand it, because mere words don't explain it. But what happened in my breakdown and in my process, because my brain broke and it took really quantum freedom healing to put it back together, but I was guided in this incredible journey of energy healing, and quantum neuron physics, which I probably would never have seen and understood if my brain didn't break. But I've put energy codes into the actual quantum freedom healings. So it's me talking and you just following the visualizations in each healing. But there are energy codes and things happening that I'm doing within people's subconscious.
Wow.
And I'm going to be training people how to do this, become quantum freedom healings in the future. But at the moment, I'm the only person in the world who is doing it. And in the actual healings itself, all you have to do is follow my instructions, and I'm actually doing the rest with energy codes and my voice in each healing.
And where can people get these guided energy healings?
It's in the Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Program, which is called NARP. We call it NARP, which is NARP. So we have tens of thousands of people in the community that we call them NARPers that are working with the program. And it's not, narcissistic abuse recovery is the big thing about it, but it's not just that. It's like any limiting thing in your life, which is the belief at a quantum level is you have to have a corresponding trauma generating that in your body for it to be in your experience. And once you target the trauma that is causing difficulty in love relationships, poor health, not enough financial freedom, not being able to lay boundaries or speak up or whatever it is, or bursting into your mission in life, whatever is holding you back, if you target the trauma in your body that's generating that, release it and bring in source, you will burst through into the experience you're after. So NARP is so much more than just narcissistic abuse recovery.
So
that's why we have a community of thrivers. Like, we so throw out the survivor model. We don't want to just survive. We want the life that is our birthright to live.
Yeah. I want to talk about the journal exercises that you provide in the book. Is that
sure?
Does that have to do with quantum freedom healing, or what's that technique?
That technique is just a self-partnering, meeting your visceral and doing work on it. It's impossible to put an energetic healing modality into the book. It just can't be done.
Okay.
However, in the book, and a lot of people have had great results from the book, which is really beautiful. And then there are people saying, okay, well, I've kind of had a taste of self-partnering and visceral shifts, but I want the Lamborghini version. Right?
Yeah.
And then they go, right, I want to follow the links of the book. I want to get onto NARP, because we have a beautiful NARP offer, through a link in the book.
Well, that's amazing. And this NAP is like guided energy healings that you provide.
Correct. All you have to do is follow the instructions, and you have a worksheet, and then it is literally plug and play and just follow the instructions.
And
It's all been worked out. And there's 10 steps in the recovery process to recover from not just narcissists, painful, difficult relationships, just disappointing relationship patterns, and even for people who go, well, maybe I'm the problem. Because at the end of the day, taking our power back, that person is just a catalyst. The healing is about us.
Yeah, the healing is within. And how did you...
Absolutely, the power's within.
How did you come by this quanta freedom healing? How did you come up with it? Or what was the process to getting to this treasure that you found?
Yeah, well, it was so channeled, Antonio. It was like, well, quantum freedom healing, in as far as me creating the course for people, is very, very channeled. But what happened was I had so many trauma conditions, PTSD, agoraphobia, adrenal malfunction, I had brain damage. I had, and I was meant to be medicated with 3 different antipsychotics to even be able to function. And when I had my epiphany breakdown experience, I realized there was another way. I hadn't found it, but I was shown and told there was another way. So I denied and talked my way out of antipsychotics, which was a total miracle. And then I started a deep self-partnering journey where I realized this was about my unhealed parts. He was actually irrelevant. So I was able to hold the contact, completely get rid of him, and just focus on healing myself. And it was a journey that took some time, but I knew cognitively, because I'd already tried for 5 years, and for years before that, cognitively, I'd done so much therapy on my wounds and my childhood and my stuff and my this and my that, and I'd got nowhere. Sometimes I had relief and I had strategies, but when I was triggered and stuff went down, I'd revert back into my old wounds and I was powerless again. So energy healing modalities, the first time I got on a kinesiology table and I had somebody working on me energetically, was the first time in my crawling recovery at this point that I felt some relief and I thought I might be able to live. And then I became a kinesiologist and I became a theta healer, and I studied EMDR and tapping and all sorts of things that were working on my subconscious, and I was getting very real results. I'd been a past life regression therapist for 20 years before any of this happened to me. So I put together a package which was kinesiology, theta, and past life timeline clearing, and I worked on myself a lot. I was a practitioner. I shared it with others. We were getting great results. But what happened was occasionally there would be a persistent trauma that wouldn't budge. Mine was agoraphobia. If I went out into wide open spaces, I would feel like life was going to swallow me whole. And I had searched out the best energetic healers I could find, as well as working on myself. I couldn't shove it. So I went to, I had an experience where one day I was in Thailand. I knew I had to go. I was in a hotel room by myself. I couldn't get out into the main streets without sweating and shaking and breaking down. And I was already holographically healing myself and others. And I knew through quantum study and understanding, I knew that if I could find the causation traumas within my being that were generating this experience of agoraphobia, and if I could release them and replace them with source, I knew I could instantly heal. I knew that. I believed that. So I sat down and I opened my heart and my mind and I just said, give me the answer. And I literally started taking dictation faster than I could write. And as I was writing it, I knew everything lit up and was tingling. And I just knew this was the answer. And I'm writing it. I'm like, oh my God. Like, it was a combination of things like kinesiology and theta healing and timeline clearing, which I was already doing. But there was other codes and things that I'd never known about. But as I was writing them, I knew them. Wow. I already knew them. Yeah, it was that experience. So anyway, I got that down and I've shut the doors and pulled the blinds and I've sat there and I did 2 hours of the first ever quantum freedom healing on myself.
Wow.
And I found deep collective wounds of, I'm going to be annihilated. I'm not safe in life. There was stuff in my genetic family history from that. There was past life traumas and annihilations that were still very deep within my subconscious. And, and not surprisingly with that, I'd been born with that stuff, that the narcissistic partner in my life, well, the husband, he was very violent and vicious and threatened to kill me and all sorts of things. So he had triggered and activated what had always been there, always. And the thing was, as a little girl, I was always hiding behind mum's skirts, and I was always agoraphobic, but it was my normal, so I didn't realize. I just thought I was timid. No. Mm-hmm. But he activated and brought the unconscious up to the conscious that badly that here I was in fully blown chronic agoraphobia. So I cleared it, and 2 hours I worked solidly at it. Then I walked out into the main street of Koh Samui, like the crowds, the stuff, the cars, the mentalness at Chai Wing Beach, which is off its head. And I was playing in life like I'd never played. I felt connected. I felt safe. I felt expanded. And I'm like, I've never felt like this. My God, I was freed. And after that, I'm like, what the hell just happened? What happened? So when I got back to Melbourne and going to Thailand, I'd met a girlfriend and I knew I had to go, and I was like breaking down and shaking, and like I'd collapsed when I got there to Koh Samui. But this time I've gone to Bangkok. I'm like, I couldn't believe it, And interestingly, on my trip to meet her, I'd had this really creepy guy come up to me, and I'm like freaking out and getting security. And on the way home, I'm on the plane talking to everybody, and I'm just like, what? Yeah. And then when I got back, my clients who I was working with holographic healing, I just said to them, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. We're doing this. And what happened was they started having these crazy breakthroughs as well. The stuff we'd been working on and chipping at just went kapoom. So what happened then was word of mouth just went crazy. People were telling, because people were saying, what just happened to you? Mm-hmm. And then I had these like psych nurses and psychiatrists and case workers, domestic violence people, because I'd had a lot of abused clients. Mm-hmm. And they said, I want to come see you and talk to you because, Maria 2 days ago was like this and now she's like this. What happened? What are you doing? So word of mouth spread like wildfire. Before I knew it, I had like 6-7 clients a day and waiting lists of 3 months. That happened within about 3 weeks. It just went nuts. And I thought, oh my gosh, something's happened here. I have to be able to help more people. There's only one of me. So I created the Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Program so that people could access these healings at any time. And I worked very hard and I channeled 10 steps to it. But what's wonderful now, Antonio, is that NARP version 3 is now created. So over the years, it's got better and better and better and better. It's through 120 different countries now.
Wow.
And we have amazing support networks around it. But what's really good is that because people have got the healings, they can work them daily or anytime in need. They don't have to wait once a week to come and see me or anybody. And they don't even have to leave their house, which is so good for coronavirus now. And we have thousands of people online, thrivers, moderators, community support networks. We have, humbly, I believe the most effective healing online container in the world because it's very safe and beautifully supported with, we call it ECHO, which is empowered. It's an outreach for people. but it means that we don't have victimization and bashing and blaming and shaming and all the toxic stuff that goes on with abuse recovery. We have a beautiful solution-based healing container that works so effectively, and it's very unique to anything I've seen in the world. That was a channeled setup as well as how to create that.
And do you want to expand this knowledge to other people now?
Absolutely. Once we kind of, that's something that's coming up in our development phase within the next 12 months is me creating the training system. Absolutely. I even say to my partner, who's so gorgeous, I'm like, I can't get on the back of a motorbike with you until I've taught people how to do this. It has to be passed on.
And I know that this technique works for depression, PTSD, psychedelics. Also, there's some studies that we've seen that psychedelics can also help with this type of things. What's your take on psychedelics?
Do you know, Antonio, I really don't know enough about them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I kind of missed all that stage in my life, you know. Mm-hmm. It was just a bit of pot and alcohol when I was growing up. So I don't kind of know. I have heard some things about that, yeah.
It would be definitely something interesting to see, since you know so much about energy healing and have created so many unique programs. You should definitely take a look.
I would love to have a look. I'm very interested in that. Yeah, for sure.
And what would you say is the number one lesson that you've learned through all these years working, helping people recover from toxic relationships?
Gosh, another great question. Do you know what the number one lesson that I've learned is? Life is happening for us and not to us. There's a deeper reason and purpose. And, you know, when our soul wants to evolve and bring us home to ourselves, to free ourselves to our biggest and our best life, it will turn up the noise as loud as it needs to be for us to do that.
Wow.
And narcissistic abuse really is that make or break experience that, you know, we either dissolve or we evolve. We either integrate or we disintegrate. It really is where the metal hits the road.
And I think that what you're saying now doesn't only apply to narcissistic abuse, but to any great adversity that somebody might be facing.
100%.
And then one last question. I want to know what you would recommend to your 22-year-old self.
Do you know what I would recommend to her? I would say, oh gosh. See, Antonio, I love everything that's happened, no matter what it was, because it was all so perfect and beautiful. But I would probably say to her, let go of your ego and the way you think it has to go, and listen more to your inner being. Because it will have its way with you. and if you can join and, you know, listen to the truth instead of thinking it has to go your way, things can be a lot smoother.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. And I want to thank you for all the beautiful work that you're doing, for helping thousands of people all over the world overcome such a terrible problem. Is there anything else that you'd like to say or anything you'd like to promote?
I would just really like to say to everybody, you know, no matter how old you are or what you've lost or how your heart's been broken and how broken you feel, I promise you there is a way out of this. There really, really is. We see people at that level all of the time that change it around in the most amazing ways. It's not over. This is not over. And yeah, and I would really love people, Antonio, to, you know, come to my website, which is melanietonyevans.com. You can connect up there to a 16-day free course which is totally free and it's no obligation. It will help you so much. please, from that, get into my free webinar, Experience Quanta Freedom Healing for Yourself. We have a quiz that's being released soon, which will explain a lot to you. And also, too, if, you know, what I'm talking about with NARP really resonates with you, check out the Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Program. It is the number one key and tool that provides thriver recoveries that I know about humbly in the world. And there's no risk with NARP at all. There's full money back guarantees. It's completely and utterly supported. You know, there's no risk for you to give it a try. And a lot of people get relief and power back very, very quickly, even after the first healing. Lots of people experience it. So if you're ready, I really, that's your track straight through to your best recovery. So, yeah.
That's beautiful, Melanie. I really appreciate you. It's been a great talk.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it too. And your questions are fantastic, Antonio.
Oh, thank you so much. Keep doing what you're doing too.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Rebound Talks podcast. I really hope you enjoyed it. We're coming out with episodes every single Wednesday, so please subscribe, leave a like, and if you found anything useful, comment it down below. See you next week.